Hey guys, Mark Rossetto here from What the Talk webinar series, and I'm super excited today to have one of Australia's favourite photography couples, Katie and Jeremy from Heart Story Photography in the ACT. If you do not know these guys, you have been living under a rock. They have won so many state and national photography awards between the two of them. They're an absolute powerhouse from the photography point of view, but in the business sense as well, they have created such an amazing photography business to suit their lifestyle, which helps them to choose their own adventure, which is the title of our webinar today, that's able to give them the lifestyle that they really want to have, and setting up a business to suit the lifestyle, and having a very young child, which you'll see in a second in the video, you know, making it all work for the family. Now, we've got so many questions over the last couple of the webinars that we've had. It's like, well, that's fine for you because you don't have kids, and that's fine because your kids are older, or I don't work full time and I don't have family support, and all these other bits and pieces that come into it as well. But they've really managed to, over the course of many years, set up a business that is both sustainable for their own sanity and for a business as well that they can earn a living from and live the lifestyle that they'd love to have. So I'm super excited to introduce to you Katie and Jeremy, and I'm going to spotlight your video. Here they are, and little Augie. Yay. So, wave, Augie. Come on, mate, you're on camera. Work with me here.
Hi.
Awesome, awesome. Guys, thanks so much for coming along. We've been good friends for a few years now. Your photography inspires myself hugely. I love your work. I love the way you shoot. I love the way that you run your business. And you two as people are just so nice to hang out and be around. It's so cool. So excited to see what you've got to share today. And I'm going to just handball it over to you. If anybody has any questions in the meantime, please write it into the chat and we'll have some Q&A towards the end. But Katie, Jeremy, kind of take it away. Well, not take the baby away. I was just going to say take it away as in like, anyway, I'm going to leave it up to you, Katie. You go for it.
Thanks, Mark. So we just needed a teether. So
yeah.
Not take over because he's like me, likes to talk a lot. How do I go? Is that the... there we go. Now I don't have to look at myself.
Yeah.
Wow.
Everyone.
All right. So I thought we'd start off by just sharing a bit of our story as to, you know, where we sort of coming from and what's happened along the way. So you guys have a bit of context, because I'm sure that some of you probably know a bit of our story, but many of you probably don't. And that kind of gives like a bit, you know, context to how it is that we manage to live this great life now and have our business be a part of that rather than being in control of that. So when I first started my business, I was on my own. Obviously, Jeremy and I have not been together the entire time that I've been running Heart Story. I really got into it because I wanted to have a life that was super flexible and be able to be there for my son when he came home from school, to not have to put him in extended daycare, to be able to have school holidays where I didn't have to work. And I think a lot of us go into business with that same ideal, that's why we want to work for ourselves, so that we have these really super flexible lives. But the reality is that mostly it doesn't work out like that, and we end up working much longer hours than we expected. We end up taking much less holidays than we expected. We get stressed. We stay up really late at night time doing work, and all of those things that we kind of didn't want, but we do it because we love it, and it can get out of control, and so we just sort of go for it and go with it. So that's you know, I guess the reality of running a photography business for a lot of us, and that's exactly what happened to me very shortly. So kind of what ended up happening is Jeremy and I got together, decided we wanted to merge our businesses, and in doing so we had to grow the business so that it was able to support us as a family, and my son Toby as well. And so that was some really rapid growth that happened over a short period of time, and it was around 2013, 2014. And it got to a point where it was just too much. And, you know, for a lot of creative people, I think you can, in your business, get to a stage where you're not putting as much work and exciting, you know, creativity into your shoots anymore because you're working so intensely hard. And you get to that point where you might start to feel like you're going to burn out. And I think a lot of us have experienced that, and that's around the point where I experienced that for the first time. Where I just felt like I'm not enjoying this anymore. I don't know if I want to do this anymore. We were working 6 days a week, every single week. We had one dedicated day off, but it was, you know, sometimes still consumed with work thoughts. How many hours do you reckon we were putting in a week?
Well, at the changeover time when we were closing down my part of the business, we were probably working at least a good 50 to 60 hours easy.
Yeah.
And the problem that we were discovering in working the 6 days, which is 6 days is fine, like, you know, to work a normal job, if you want to work 6 days and you can handle it, go for it. But one of the issues that we discovered was because we have Katie's boy Toby half of the time, those weekends that we had him, we were working. So one of us would be out and one of us would be trying to look after him, and there was a few babysitting negotiations happening with his dad. So that kind of got to a point where we started to design a lifestyle that suited our personal life. And that was probably the spark, I would say, to, you know, changing our business holistically so that it was a working machine that suited personally, and our personal lives was just as important as our business life.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I went through the same thing. So when my little Levi was about 6 months to 8 months to 1 year old type thing, I used to work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night and all day Saturday. And my diary was very, very empty from Tuesday to Friday, 9 till 5. And I was the same as you guys. You get to a stage where it's like, this isn't how it's supposed to be. Like, something's got to change. And we change our business holistically, I'll use your word, Jez, at the same time to start photographing babies. We just started photographing newborn babies because we knew they could come in the hours. And then what happened, our whole business model flipped in 2012 within about 6 months to 12 months of going every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night from 6 till 9 was really busy and the days quiet to nearly fully booked out Tuesday to Friday during the day and not have to work the evenings. And I was home at 4:30 majority of nights. It was amazing.
Well, see, we were nowhere near that. Like, we were in the stage of trying to take as much work as possible on so that we could earn enough money for the whole family. That was the shift for us. And I think it's hard being a couple business because you have no other option. You have nothing to fall back on. You can't say, I'm going to work part-time for a while because, you know, my wife or my husband is bringing home the bacon for a bit. You have to just make it work consistently all the time. So we were still doing a lot of weddings as well, and they're the most unfamily friendly thing in the world when it comes to photography. And so we just sat down one day and said, all right, this sucks, because what was happening was we'd finish, we were drinking too much. We'd finish the end of the day and just sit down and just drink for a couple of hours most nights, because we just needed to get, you know, out of the mindset and relax and have a laugh. When we went on holidays, if we got them, we were so exhausted that we couldn't really enjoy the holidays. We never picked up a camera on our holidays. Well, I certainly didn't. I was just like, I'm just so sick of shooting. So what we did one day, we just sat down and went, how about if we only work 5 days a week? What would that be like?
Shock horror.
I know,
oh my
like
goodness.
what else does.
Amazing.
Yeah, and realised, kind of had this cathartic moment of, how are we going to do this? Well, why don't we just do it and just see how that goes? Because it seems like this really hard thing, but then you do it and you change your calendar, you change your availability, and all of a sudden it's happening. And you think, why didn't I do this 2 years ago? So first thing was to change to 5 days a week. And then slowly over the next year or so, we got ourselves into where we are now, which is what we do now is we work 5 days one week and 3 days the next. So, and sometimes we have to do 4 days the next. So sometimes it's a 9-day fortnight. Sometimes it's an 8-day fortnight, but it's always 5 days one week, 3 or 4 days the next. And the way that pattern works is our 5 days are Wednesday to Sunday, 1 week. So that means we shoot all weekend And then the following week, we just work Wednesday to Friday. And that's just, in the office. It's either studio shoots or it's working, on production and sales. And the reason we got to that point is because we realised that if we kept doing what we were doing, we were going to work every single weekend, every single week. And that's just no way to have a family and have a nice lifestyle that you enjoy. It's not enough to just have Monday and Tuesday off when you have kids, because they want to spend time with you. So we got ourselves into that. Now, because we live in Canberra and because we shoot outside 90% of the time, that meant that we really needed to think about weather interruptions and having reschedule days. So what we do is we have every second Saturday set aside for reschedules. So it's mostly just in case the goes awry. Sometimes it's sick kids, but usually it's weather interruptions that we use it for. And we set that day aside. We don't always need to use it. In fact, sometimes of the year we don't use that day for ages, which is why we're 5 days one week, 3 days the next. If we have to use the reschedule day, then we're 5 days one week, 4 days the next. But what it gives us is some weeks we get 4 days off in a row, no work. And
Awesome.
It's absolutely fantastic.
The 4-day weekend.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. So, and if it's not 4, then it's 3, and it's always at least 3 and then 2 the following week. So I hope that sort of makes sense. I like to see these things visually. So I'm sure if you look at a calendar, you can sort of imagine how we do it. And we decided that way to match up with when we have Toby. Toby, my son, Jeremy's stepson, he's now about to turn 11. He's with us 50% of the time. So the weekends that we don't work are the weekends he's with us, and that suits us. But I think this could possibly work for any family who has to commit to some weekends but doesn't want to commit to all. I know there are other photographers who just say, look, I just don't work Sundays, and that's fine. But it's actually nice to have a Saturday off every now and then too, because then you can go away for the weekend. And that's something that everyone else in life gets to enjoy, but photographers rarely do. And it's a nice thing to be able to have that every now and then, just take the whole weekend off. And then the other thing that we do is we have 12 weeks holiday a year. So that covers school holidays and also, a bit of our own time when we want to take holidays. And we worked our business in to make sure that could happen. Because missing out on holidays it's just because you work for yourself and you love your work doesn't mean you should miss out on having holidays like the rest of the world. And I figure, why not have more? Because everyone else only gets 4 weeks, so we're going to have 12. And we still get paid during that time.
Very cool. Just on that question too, so when you take your 12 weeks, is that during the school holidays or is it?
Some of it is.
Not necessarily. Because we live in Canberra, and I'm not sure if you're aware, but it was -4 this morning. We can't shoot in the mornings during winter. Like, I had my last session on Saturday at 8 a.m. and it was -2. Fortunately, they were older teenage kids, so they were fine. But it was a beautiful, foggy, frosty morning. It was awesome. But most of the families are like, hell no. And we're like, well, we're not going to be shooting that much in winter anyway, so why don't we just close down every August and have a holiday? And that's what we do. So we dedicate all of August off, irrespective of whether there's school holidays in there or not. So
that's awesome. That's very cool. And then do you take the time off? Like, the reason why I asked, being the family portrait studio, most school holidays are the time that kids aren't at school. So then you photograph all the primary school and the secondary aged kids. So do you take that holiday off, or do you take off during school term?
We take part of each holiday off.
Cool.
But
it depends on the time of year. So the thing with Canberra is, most of Canberra head down to the south coast at Christmas holidays. So we're like, well, why be here? Nobody's around to photograph. So
they actually leave a lot. Canberrans love to evacuate the city. So school holidays aren't as convenient and lucrative as they might be in other places. Okay, cool. And same with public holidays. It's pointless working a public holiday weekend in Canberra because everyone leaves. So you get people just say, oh, I'm going to be away that weekend. So we figure that we'll take advantage of that and say, well, we'll have the weekend off too, because, what's the point in trying to work and make something happen when, you're only going to feel half of the weekend. So one of the things that happens when you start to work less hours across a longer period of time is that you have to block your shoots in really efficiently. So you have to do, 10 to 20 shoots in one weekend instead of just spreading them out all over the place.
How do you do that? How long is a shoot on the weekend?
How long?
How long is a shoot on the weekend?
An hour.
Awesome.
Yeah, same as we always try and shoot inside an hour. But yeah, you just have to plan that into your calendar. So I'll explain how that fortnight works, because I think it can help to see this visually. But look, if you all maybe I should. Yeah, I hope August does not. Can everyone hear us without the baby being annoying? Like,
it's fine. It's fine. We're all parents and photographers, so
really loud to me. So
it's absolutely fine. After being photographed, as you know, photographing babies so many times, they could be screaming in your ear. Unless it's your own child, you just block them out.
Yeah,
it's like, what child?
So our calendar. So what we do is we schedule our calendar in advance. And I think this is the only way that you can actually make a system like this work. So we probably schedule a calendar in 3 months ahead most of the time. And sometimes we actually do it for up to 12 months because we're looking at our holiday times. So we'll block in that whole of August off. We'll block in 3 to 4 weeks over Christmas, January period. And then we'll block in other periods that we want to take off. Like over this 12-month period, so from July to next July, we've got all of August, we've got 2 weeks at the end of September into early October, we've got 4 weeks across January, and then we've got another 2 weeks in April. So it's all in the calendar already, which means we can work around it. And then we just need to work out how many shoots do we need to do in each period of time, and then we start putting those open shoot appointment times into the calendar. So we'll say, here's our weekend, we're shooting all weekend. There's one at 8 a.m, there's a studio shoot at 11:30 or 12, there's another one at 2, there's a shoot outside at 3, there's a shoot at, it just goes through the day like that. And we will try and, at the moment, I'm not shooting, Jeremy's shooting on his own. He does 10 shoots on a working weekend. So that's usually 6 outside and 4 in the studio on a weekend. And then he'll block in some for the weekday in the studio during the week. So they're all locked into the calendar as open spaces. And that's the same with our sales appointments. They go in as open spots at certain times. And then that's what's available for our clients. So there's no sort of, your client rings up and says, can you do a shoot at such and such a date at such and such a time? We look at the calendar. No, I'm sorry, we're not available for that. But what we do have is this, this, and this. Would one of those suit you? And I think that is the key for getting in control of your own time. If you let your clients dictate, how those things work, then you have no power and no control. So yeah, we just get it in when we can. And one of the things I notice that happens, or I see on Facebook a bit, is photographers saying things like, oh, I'm so booked, I actually have no time to take holiday. So that's why you've got to get that into the calendar first before you start booking up. So if you're booking, say right now, if you're booking for September, October, November, and you don't have any holiday time in, you're probably too late. But if you can sneak it in before you get too heavily booked, then you've got it, it's locked in, and you don't have to think about it again. That's the time you're going on holidays and you go. And it's really that simple. What sort of scheduling tool? So we just use Gmail, Google Calendar through Gmail. So it's a really great calendar because you can color code all your different activities. So we have shoots in one colour, we have purchasing appointments in another colour, we have days off, we have closed days, we have appointments that aren't sales appointments, we block in our work production days, editing days, all of that sort of stuff, all in. So, and we can have our personal appointments in there too. So have them as another colour. So we can really see everything at a glance on that Google Calendar. It's really great. And I honestly my life would be a disaster without that thing. It just rules every aspect. And the great thing about Google Calendar too is that you can share certain calendars with different people. So we have a team in our studio and we can share what we need to share with each team member. So they can see the shoots that they need to see. They can see what days we're working and not working. They can see when we're on holidays and any other relevant things. So they don't need to see when I'm getting my hair done or, when August is having his next immunisations, but they can see all the other stuff they need to see. So it's really convenient. And you can share those calendars with other family members too. If you have like shared care arrangements, daycare that you need to sort out, things like that, it's really, really useful. So you can just see your whole life at a glance.
Cool. Talk to me about the whole work-life balance thing. So I know it's something that we spoke about last night.
Can I, just before you go on, so one of the things with the way that our diary's managed is we know how many sessions we need to shoot a fortnight, and we know how many portrait purchasing appointments we need to have in that time as well. So they obviously need to match, because you can't shoot more and view less. You have to view the same amount. We always do in-person sales. So Katie, with the clever mind that she has, does a lot of background work in our business. And I would say she's the driving force, and sometimes I'm just the muscle. But the way that we've scheduled our diary is to shoot the amount of shoots that we need to shoot to accommodate the lifestyle that we have, which kind of feeds onto your question. So the reason that we can shoot 40 weeks a year and have 12 weeks off is because we know that number of sessions that we need to have, because we know what our average sale is. And all of our products are being geared towards an average sale. That means we can live the life that we want to have. So that's kind of like the chicken or the egg, which comes first. Well, it's kind of a holistic thing, and that's the way that we approach our business. And that also comes down to the times that we have allocated. When Katie touched on it before, well, that's all we have. When it comes to the purchasing appointments, we only do them Fridays. We have the occasional one on a weekend or a Thursday evening, and it's not late on Thursday evening, by the way. But we educate our clients from the very start. This is what we do. This is how it works. Which of those sessions will suit you, so that when we finish the session, we'll make a time for you to come in on one of those. So we make a note. Friday morning's great for them. Awesome. I've got that note on my paperwork when I photograph them at the end. I'm like, cool, they have Friday mornings, which is best. These are the Friday mornings I've got coming up. Which one suits you best? And they accommodate. Like, none of these weird 8 p.m. viewing times, because that's what suits them. We give them the option of what we have available and what suits us.
That means, like, you must love Friday. Friday, 5 o'clock to you guys must be like, what a great day Fridays are.
It's like 8:30 a.m. is like, I'm pumped. And that's probably the most exciting part of the day is, what are we going to do today? And what are these clients, what are they going to purchase from us?
So we like the idea of like, oh, look at all this money that all came in one day.
Exactly. Friday's like game day for you guys. It's like payday. It's like, so bring it on.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on that too. This isn't really in our notes, and I didn't really want to go into it too much, but I've only recently taken over from doing the in-person sales. Katie did them all, for obvious reasons. Augie came along and Katie's on mat leave. So for all those people out there that are kind of like, maybe I'm not quite sure about doing in-person sales, go for it. I was petrified of getting back into that room, because I used to do it in Sydney occasionally. But going back into that room after Katie was managing it, I was petrified that I wouldn't be able to live up to the standard that Katie was setting for us and the averages that we were getting. But once I started doing it, I've got the vibe now. Like, I really enjoy that process, and that's one of the fun parts of photographing, and then seeing what they do with the images. And it's not selling. We don't feel selling. We're just helping them make right decisions for their homes.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, so guys, just letting you know, it's 9:55, so we've got about 10 minutes left.
Right.
You don't want to take up too much of your time. You guys are busy.
One of the other things that I guess people often ask about when we get our, we talk about our calendar is how do clients deal with that? And so I just want to touch on that quickly. Jeremy said a little bit about it, but there are advantages to having a very strict calendar where they can only choose from what's available. And one of them is that it creates a sense of urgency for the client, that, they say, oh, so when do we come back in? And I'll say, oh, I'll just let me pull my phone out and I'll check, because this will happen on location, for example, after a session. I'll just check what we've got. And then you sort of say to them straight away, oh, we've got one spot left next Friday at 12:15. Do you think you can manage that? And, oh, I'm not quite sure. Or what else have you got? Well, the next one after that isn't until the following Friday, and that's at 10:15. And then after that, you could wait another week, and then we might have a full day of them. So people sort of think, oh, I better get in quick because I can see it next week if I take that one. So creating that sense of urgency is quite helpful. And it's the same with shoots. They'll say, oh, look, sometime in autumn. And then you can tell them, well, actually, we're only shooting 2 weekends in autumn. So you actually probably should jump in and get it now, because otherwise it'll be taken and you'll miss out. So it actually can help to your advantage. And it's just the same as booking with any business, getting your hair cut at the best hairdresser in town, or, getting a booking at a restaurant you really like, or, getting into a specialist medical appointment. You don't get to call them and tell them when you want to come. You have to take what they've got. And I think people understand that. It's just that for some reason, as photographers, we kind of think that we have to be really super flexible with everyone just in case they don't want us or they run away and get someone else. You've got to be brave enough to just say, look, this is what I've got. And yes, my purchasing appointments are on Fridays. I like to say things to people like, we find that most parents prefer a Friday appointment because they can come without their children. And you know, and otherwise, you know, if you come with your kids on a weekend, it's really distracting. So I think people then go, oh, yeah, good point. And he needs to feed. So Jeremy, how about you just, while I get him settled, do you want to talk about, move on to that? I'm hungry, Mum.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the home versus studio stuff?
Oh, yeah, cool. So that was one thing that you kind of brought up, Mark, is the home studio. So we've been running our business from this house for the last 4 years. 4 years?
Yeah.
Or so? Yeah.
5 years.
Which was great. Like, we walked into this house, we're just renting, and we're like, holy shit, this guy, this guy designed this house for us. Like, it's the perfect setup. We've got a studio space, a viewing room, which is the 5th bedroom, and an office upstairs, which was really great. But because we had this guy coming along into our lives, it was just making things feel a little bit too tight in the house. So, you know, having a screaming baby, which can interrupt everything, at the other end of the house, for Katie would have been really tricky to manage emotionally. And I felt that too. The urgency of getting out of here kind of started to overwhelm us. And because we needed another staff member, it would have been a little bit crowded in the office. So we started looking at spaces. So we moved our business out of this house in December. So we've been there for 6 months. And it's been quite good, actually. It's pretty hard to quantify if it's made much difference to our business, but it's nice to leave and go to work and close the door and leave it behind, which theoretically should be happening, but we've still got a computer at work and, you know, we own a business, so we can't stop thinking about it. So especially Katie, her mind is always ticking over about, you know.
I think about the business more being on mat leave than I did when I was not on mat leave. Maybe that's because there's a void. I don't know.
It's also because you're not shooting in front of the clients as much, and you've got to pass all that trust, all that control and trust onto Jez to go, have you got this? Did you do this? Is everyone up to date? And that's why having a great CRM and having a good diary and systems and procedures, the fact that you can walk away and put it into someone else's hands, whether it's kind of Jez's hands or your staff members and team, because everyone's on the same page. They all know what's going on. They don't have to go in and go, so what are we doing today? So when are you available today? Can I book this? Can I do that? You can just let them get on with their job because you've done all the systems and procedures and set up to get them moving.
Yeah, and that's a work in progress because we've been running Tave now we've had it probably running for a year, but it's a monster and we'll never stop learning how to use that thing, and we're still learning. So, you know, it's coming along, but there's still a lot of work to go.
Yeah, cool.
When we sort of had to make the decision about moving the studio, I guess that's another part of the whole make your business suit your lifestyle. So we could have struggled along at home. And it would have been okay because we were managing at home before, but it didn't suit our lifestyle anymore. And that's, I feel, when you need to make decisions about your business, is when they start interfering with what you need, you know, for your family and for yourself, for your own sort of sanity and your rest and your holidays, you know, all of those things. And, you know, if you've got a baby crying, you know, down the stairs, or, you know, young children, it's maybe not the best environment to work at home. Like, that's maybe the time when you think, you know, this is interfering, I'm not relaxed, you know, it's making me need to work at night time and I don't like that. And that's when maybe you think about getting out of home. And we actually loved working at home so much, and people would say to us, how do you manage your time, and don't you get distracted, and, you know, all of this. But I thought it was fantastic and we were disciplined, but August coming along meant that we just had to change that. So now the studio, although it has some disadvantages in terms of costs and things, it's just made our life so much better. We have this freedom and space now that we didn't have before. It's opened up opportunities that we didn't have before too, that will suit our long-term goals. So I think, again, everything that we do and decisions we make and our sort of driving forces really just are about what we want out of our life, and we put that first, and that's where work-life balance thing comes into place. Like it's about making sure that our life is looked at first, because that's why you work, to have the life that you want.
Yeah, it's very cool. And even for the people who do have small kids and working from home that can't have a studio space, if you have a pretty locked down diary going, I'm only available on these dates at this time while the kids are at daycare or school. Like if you have like a nanny or the children go to your mum's house or dad's house or family's house and have like a babysitter. If you just structure your days to suit when they're not around,
yeah,
and clients just have to fall into it. It's kind of like, and most people, if you're photographing kind of kids and you're talking to parents, they understand that. So they don't have to be super flexible and do design appointments at 8:00 at night. Just say, look, as a mum, as a dad working from home, I'm sure you understand this is the only time I've got.
Yeah.
So
and sometimes you have to just be a little bit blunt with people too, because they just forget momentarily. So you can say things to them like, when they say, oh yeah, no, I can't do that after 5 because that's my family time. And you say, well, it's my family time too. So sorry, yeah, I can't do that. And then they go, oh yeah, of course. Like that, sometimes people just take a little reminder to sort of, just come back to reality that they don't get to choose. And
I think the other thing to just put in there as like a little full stop or maybe an exclamation mark is that the harder someone pushes you for a time that you don't have, the more difficult that client will be, probably 9 times out of 10. So the more you bend over for someone, the higher the chances are that they'll pull your pants down. That's kind of, it's probably not the best analogy.
It's only 10 a.m. in the morning, but all right, let's just go there.
But that seems to be the way. If someone's really pushing for an outside of hours, what you would normally do, then they're going to be a difficult client. So I think, really enforcing these are the times that we have. If you can't fit into that, then that's kind of unfortunate. So.
And you do need to have some pretty good policies behind you. You need to have really good cancellation policies, really good, really strict, and certain penalties that can put people off from treating you with disrespect when it comes to your time. We have worked really hard at that over the years, and sometimes it still can bite us in the ass. We had someone a little while ago tell us they thought we were too inflexible with our cancellation policies, that they were too harsh. And, whatever, if they want to be rude. Oh, a little bomb.
I was waiting for that. I was hoping to capture that across in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm going to put this on Australia's Funniest Home Video Show. It's going to be awesome. But I couldn't see it completely. Just with that cancellation policy, what is yours?
We have a bunch of different ones, and one of our favourite ones, which we introduced only about 18 months ago, is that if you have appointment specifically, if you have a 5:00 on a Thursday, an 8:30 on a Friday, a 4:15 on a Friday, or any appointment on a weekend, and you cancel it with less than 24 hours less than 24 hours notice. No, actually it's 7 days, I think. Yeah, it's 7 days. That's what we changed it to. Then we will not offer you that appointment again. And you'll have to take like a 10:15 or a 12:15 or a 2:15 or something like that. Because what we were finding is that the clients that did want those more, harder to get appointments were the ones who were most likely to, at the last minute, say, oh, sorry, I've had a work clash. And it's just not okay. And yes, things sometimes happen. People have car accidents, babies get sick. And in those circumstances, we're always understanding. And you have to accept a certain amount of that in any photography business. But it's the people that call up and say, I just need to change it because I forgot something. Like, what am I supposed to do then? How am I supposed to put someone else in that spot, in 6 hours? It's not going to happen. So we have those policies in place to deter people from being rude, basically.
Rude person's insurance.
Rude person's insurance. I don't think we've ever used. I loved how you had that at Enhance, that rude person's insurance. We don't actually use the word, but I think it's evident in the fact that we say, like, we're a small business. We have a family. We have a certain amount of appointments per week. That's it. If you cancel, I'm sorry, but this is what happens. And since we introduced that, we've had very few people actually disrespect us like that. And the same goes for session time, actual session times. If somebody cancels at the last minute, we often will just cancel their booking. We'll say, well, I'm sorry, we don't have room for you anymore, because it's just so rude. If it doesn't happen for an actual emergency or illness or something like that, then why the hell should you give them another block of your time? That's how you lose money.
Yeah.
So, and that's another reason why we have set reschedule days too, because one of the things that can happen if you have people reschedule because of bad weather or sick children, which are realities of outdoor portrait photographers, if you just always give them other spots in your calendar, then you're actually limiting the amount of money that you can earn, because you're giving one family maybe 2 or maybe 3 spots, if the weather keeps going horrible over a certain month. If you have reschedule days, then you're only putting them into that spot, so you're not giving them someone else's spot. And that's the best way of managing a busy schedule, is to have those set days for that.
That's very cool. Very cool. And with the cancellation things, just to throw my 2 cents worth in there as well, we did a $50 booking fee, and the booking fee, if you failed to turn up or give us if you failed to turn up or give us 3 days notice, we'll keep the $50. Or if you don't want to do a financial, like, I'm going to take your money kind of scenario, their gift voucher is kind of void. Or you just, there's something that's got to give, that's got to make people think twice about it. Yeah. The other 2 things that we had to stop the cancellation is we had like a fridge magnet that with the shoot time and a little phone number with the cancellation policy with pictures on it. It looked really nice. I can't show it to you because I'm not allowed to, but we put it as a fridge kind of magnet, and that stopped, like, our cancellations dropped dramatically, because they were reminded every time they got, like, the milk that shoot time is at this time and this day and this is our phone number. So it kept us kind of top of mind the whole time. The other part, we had a little piece of paper after the shoot with a special. And with that particular special, the special was only valid on their first design appointment that they booked, not their second or third or fourth, which meant, like, just don't mess with me. Like, and we joked about it. It's like, look, cancellation is not really an issue, is it? Because you're not going to cancel, are you?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Nah, I'm not going to cancel, because I'm going to take your money if you do. And they're like, okay, I'll let you know. And I'm like, well, good. How about you just don't cancel and we don't have to have that conversation?
Yeah, we actually also have a $100 cancellation fee too, that we say in our policies. We have the right to do this, to charge this, but we very rarely do it. Like, I think we might have done it maybe twice in the last few years. People that really deserved it.
Yeah, I had a session that for one stupid, who knows what their reason was, but they cancelled, I think within like 6 hours before their session. Like, oh, hi, sorry, something's come up, we can't make it. I'm like, fine, you came on a gift card, a third party promotion. So if you want to come back in, that's $100 off your gift card. And I didn't hear from them again, which is good.
Yeah, which is good. So, they can go jump.
Filter.
Because they're probably never going to be very nice. Yeah.
It's a filter, which is really cool. Cool. Awesome. All right, guys, I am going to stop the recording. But if anyone's got any questions for these two, we don't want to take up too much more of their time, please chop it into the chat.
I saw one there about the in-person sales
schedules.
That's right. Hold that thought. There'll be more coming through. We'll turn off the video. We'll put it into the chat. So don't go anywhere. We will cover them in a second. If you do have any questions, pop it into the chat. For those people who, yeah, I can see what you're reading. For those people, I'm so distracted. Anyway, thanks so much for turning up. That's really cool. That insight is awesome. So many people really struggle to set up their business and structure it in a way to suit their lifestyle. They just think that, like you said, you've just got to be available because you don't want to say no to a particular kind of job. And then you become a slave to the job and everybody else without having that structure in place. So I love the part where, I know we talked about this on the marketing workshop as kind of well, and I'll show you what we did, is go get yourself a calendar.
Yeah.
First, and block out all your school holidays, all your public holidays, all your family holidays, all your special events. Block those out of your diary so they are not available non-negotiable. No matter how much that client wants that date, you are not working on that date because you will be in Fiji or somewhere else. Having those set structured days. So if those people were on the webinar last week who heard from Kim was all about knowing your numbers and knowing exactly how many shoots you need, how much money you want to make, which kind of ties into yours, Katie, absolutely perfectly. It's almost like I planned it, which has been absolutely kind of perfect. Block out your shoot days and just take control. Take control of your lifestyle, take control of your work. The reason why we're photographers and do what we do, because we love to be the boss, control freaks. We love to be the boss, and we love to, have the lifestyle that we want to live with photography that we can be creative with as well in a business that we love to do, which is super awesome. So Katie and Jeremy, thank you so much for coming along. Your wisdom, your knowledge is absolutely awesome. And August, you're so cute. Come on, vomit. Just do one for me. Just one. Just nothing. Thank you so much for coming along. Let's do some Q&A now. I'm going to turn this video off. For those watching this webinar later, have a good day. You're missing out on Q&A. There's heaps of questions here, so be here next time. See you, bye.